Welcome to this video about change groups in CreditSafe Connect for Business Central. Change groups is an essential part of the automatic monitoring of our companies that we have downloaded from CreditSafe. And the change groups, we can find them in the setup that will open a list of groups. Each one of them has a code. The ones that has a numeric code is from the global API, and if I just reverse the sort order, we have the alphanumeric ones that comes from the Swedish data source. Each one of these has check marks that decides if, in this case, a change or rating should trigger a new report data pool, and if it should trigger a new credit check. These change groups are automatically created. So if a new change group should occur in the data that we download from CreditSafe, that change group will automatically be created in this list. It will automatically be enabled for triggering new report data, new credit check. I think the only change group that is by default not triggering this is if you look at if you sort on that one, okay, yeah, the fax number from the Swedish. That's the only one that doesn't trigger new data. Otherwise, any changes here will trigger new data and trigger new credit checks. And of course, you can edit this list and you can remove this. If you don't want like secondary name triggering a new report data, just uncheck this one. As I mentioned, these change groups are used in the automatic updates. And if we look at the definition of what we call a scheduled update on monitoring objects, normally you just have one, which just updates all your monitoring objects. In my database, I have a couple of different scenarios. If you look at the one that I have that is filtering on the global data source, performing automatic updates for Norway, Denmark, Finland, we check changes. And based on the response from CreditSafe, we pull new report data and we do a new credit check. If there are changes that has a date that is more recent to what we already have. And what do we already have? Well, then we have to go back to the monitoring objects and look at the dates here. This is the dates we already have. So if there are new changes, we compare the date of the change with the date for our last data fetch to see if it's a new change, and we also compare the date of the last credit check. So that is the basics behind these change groups. We also use change groups in the monitoring, where you can set up which groups are you interested in following changes on. In this demo environment here, I have 5 new group changes. So if I click here, you can see these kind of changes on. These are for the Swedish API since it's alphanumeric groups. So we can see that, okay, on this company, a merger has occurred. I can set up which change groups I want to track by going in here. So I have decided to track these kind of changes. Whenever a new debt collection has occurred, merger decision, a change of auditor, an alcohol serving permit, or maybe more importantly, when there has been a change in a representative or board of directors, those kind of changes, I can track them, and I can mark these as reviewed when I have taken some action or just read the information. Then these will be reviewed, and they will not be visible here unless I remove the filter on reviewed. So here I have older changes. Okay, that was the basics of the change groups, and now we will go into a little bit more details and the difference between the global data source, the Swedish data source, and see how this works behind the scenes. So let's start with a monitoring object. This company in Norway, which will pull data from the global data source. If I would manually check change, let's see what will happen. Okay, so there are new changes that requires a credit check. So I get a question, do I want to do it? And if this was run by the scheduled update, it would automatically pull new data from CreditSafe and do a new credit check. And we will get new report data since credit checks on for the global data source is based on report data that we pull from CreditSafe. Sorry. But I will click no here. And you can see that, okay, a new credit check is required. Since we got the information, we should do a new credit check, but we didn't do it. But normally when the automation is running, you will never see this because it will just enable, it will just set this checkbox, and in the next step, it will do the credit check. And let's look at the related data and the change groups. So when I did the change check, we got information that, okay, 17th of July, 2025, the rating was changed. And the 17th of July, well, that is a date that is later when we last did the credit check. So therefore, the system suggests that we should do a new credit check. And how do we ask CreditSafe about this? Well, if you look at the communication log, we did a check change for a company. And if you look at the URL, switch to my notepad, it looks like this. We are actually calling the API and asking the portfolio functionality in the API and this specific portfolio for changes on this ID. We will get the notification events. That will give us all the events on this company from the date and time that the date that we actually put this company into the portfolio. And this was the response we got. We can look at the response here in the communication log first of all. This was the response. On this company, we got this event. We got a change on the international score. Okay. And you see, yeah, here we go. The 17th of July, that was the score. Score change. That was the most recent score change that we had on this company. And we read this data and we put it into the list of the change groups. So this is how it ends up inside Business Central. And the scheduled update would automatically do the credit check and the new credit check required is gone and is approved, and we got a new date for the credit check. But this is done all automatically by the scheduled updates that usually runs every day by the job queue. But let's take a look at the Swedish data source also. We can use this company here, and we will, under the actions, do the check change. So nothing new here, but let's take a look what happened in the communication log. We called the Swedish data source using the get date check company. So here we are not using the portfolios. If we go back to the global data source, we are dependent on that we actually have the companies put into portfolios, but that's done automatically if you use the default setup. But when it comes to the Swedish data source, we don't use the portfolios normally. Instead, we do for each company, we call CreditSafe and ask for changes. We can take a look at the request. We search for this company number, and we ask for changes after a specific date. That's required by law in Sweden. And we get a response. And this is an empty response. There was no new changes after June this year. So no need to update data for this company. So I think that was pretty much all about change groups. You will see change groups in another video also about the monitoring. The portfolios in the global data source, we could briefly mention it now. If we look at portfolios, these are automatically created. You will get a lot more. You will get one portfolio for each country that supports online monitoring. But and the portfolios, we normally have 4 rules in each one of them. If we look at the Norwegian portfolio, the rules decide what kind of changes should the portfolio trigger on and listen to. So it's kind of duplicate. We both tell the portfolio, which resides in the CreditSafe databases, what should the portfolio react on in terms of change groups, because these are also actually kind of change groups that are available in the monitoring. So you both need to set up what should the portfolio react on. And then when we get the changes into Business Central decides based on the change groups. But you don't have to worry that much about the change groups, since if we go into that list again, the new change groups are automatically created, and all change groups except fax for the Swedish is automatically pulling new data, doing new credit checks. So you should focus on what should your portfolios react on, and also in the monitoring, what are you interested in following more manually like this and reviewing. So thank you for your patience listening to me talking about change groups in CreditSafe Connect. Thank you.